Welcome to the DNA API Incubator webinar. We're excited to have you today, and we have a few things planned. So my name is Ryan Scott. I lead all the technology and development with DNA Behavior, and I'm here with Nikki Evans.
Hi, Ryan. Hello, everyone.
Nikki leads all of the training, development, and some of the additional API work that we do. She leads a coaching session with DNA Incubator Program participants. So as you guys onboard into the DNA API Incubator platform, you'll interface with Nikki a little bit more as she helps you kind of craft the design of your app and how you'll be using the behavioral insights. So as we get started, we wanted to just reiterate the fact that we have two different tracks with DNA Behavior. The first track is DNA Retail, and that's the products that are available on our website and have been for quite some time now. The products are Financial DNA, Business DNA, and Communication DNA. So they're turnkey out-of-the-box solutions that are more SaaS products, so software as a service. You can buy it off of our website and get started in just a few minutes. The other product that we are going to be highlighting today is the DNA API. This is really for DIY application development. It's perfect for teams that have development resources and are wanting to create their own custom and unique app using our insights. So they are two different platforms. And if you're really just looking for something that's out of the box and doesn't require additional development, the DNA retail products are perfect for you. So today we have a few things planned. So for the agenda we have, we're going to start with tips to establish the vision and design of your product. And then we're going to talk about how to jumpstart your onboarding with our IP pack, how to test the connection, getting started with the questionnaire development, how to use DNA insights and some resources we have for that, as well as the DNA Incubator Program requirements and how to specifically apply. So just to frame it up, we're going to describe a little bit about what is the DNA Incubator Program. So we have two different ways that you can get started with our API. We work with a lot of startup firms, and then we also work with a lot of enterprise firms. For startup firms, we have a specific program that allows you to get started on a more discounted level, and you get more access to API resources in order to get started. And you know, we share some tips and tricks, and we will connect you with other people that are part of the program. And it's really to help startups kind of grow and foster in the startup community. So we have, we've mirrored all the program requirements and settings to map similar settings that Azure, Microsoft Azure, and Amazon AWS have as far as program requirements for startups. So if you can apply to our program and you get accepted, you will also, by virtue, have or meet all the same program requirements that Microsoft and AWS require. So we recommend that as you start to think about hosting solutions, that you do kind of look into those other startup programs that are out there so that you can access other discounted resources and get connected with other startups that may not be using behavioral apps but are using Amazon Web Services and Microsoft Azure. If you guys have any questions about that, just let us know. We're pretty familiar with those programs. So as you get started with the development, this is the typical roadmap that would take place. So things start with an idea, and then you start to design what is a minimal viable product in order for you to get started. You come up with a UX design, or you work with a design team to come up with a design for you. And then you figure out the logistics, who's going to build it, how, why. You kind of start answering all those questions. And then you start an agile process or some other type of process in order to build, test, and repeat so that you can grow your platform over time based on user tests. Throughout my experience of working at DNA, there's specific books and resources that I've found personally very helpful, and we put these we outlined them below in each step. So I recommend that a really good book to review and a process is called Hooked. So it's how to build habit forming products. So how to build products that you know, individuals can you know, build a habit on. So like Instagram, every time we take a picture, we inherently think, oh, I might want to put this on Instagram. That's a habit that they have formed for us to make that connection. So it's all about making connections with software products in order to boost use and performance. MVP planning, a really good resource for that is a 30-day startup. So it just kind of discusses how to really get started and build something that's very defined and that the market really needs. For UX design, there are some behavioral tools that we have used along the way. I've found that a book called The Smarter Screen is really helpful. It talks about behavioral tips and tricks in order to make UX connections or really beautiful UX experiences for the users using behavior. So I thought that that was really interesting, and it also makes connections to what we do as a business. Logistics, you know, those would be all about like what development resources you're going to use, where you're going to host it, how everything is going to work. As I mentioned prior, AWS, Amazon Web Services, and Microsoft Azure both have startup programs that would mirror similar program requirements that we have. So I recommend that you check out those resources. Azure's is called Spark, if you specifically want to look at that on Google. Ours is, our platform is built on Microsoft Azure, and we've had some really good success and learning experiences with that. Any about Azure, you can let us know. We also have Incubator partners. So we have a network of partners in our ecosystem that have either built apps before or are coaches and trainers and individuals just very experienced in technology. If you have any questions about getting in touch with them, or if you need any contacts, just let us know. And the last resource on agile development and continuous delivery is this book that I recommend called Continuous Delivery. It has a very helpful resource guide in there where you can look up specific things that your development team is going through. Like, are they too slow to go to market? Or are there a lot of errors or a lot of bugs? And you can go into this guide, and then it will do a deep dive into helping you diagnose maybe some of the problems that are going on in your team and how to quickly solve them in order to have almost like an agile process to building and refining your individual team. I thought it's extremely helpful, and I highly recommend it to anybody that's just getting started.
And just as a reminder or a note as to everyone, if you have questions along the way, there's a question and answer box that you can type your questions in, and I'll be monitoring that and make sure that we get those questions over to Ryan. Or there may be, and I can't remember, there may be a raise hand feature, and if you do that, I can call on you and unmute your line so that you can ask a question out loud. So if you have questions along the way, please feel free to drop them in the Q&A box or raise your hand, and we'll stop and answer your questions. Thanks.
Cool. And next I have a slide that shows the IP pack. So in our API documentation, there's many different references to what is called the IP pack. So this is all the information that is where you access our intellectual property. There's specific resources that you will need in order to set up the app. So the first is the natural behavior questions. So our team we have about 30 years of experience developing questionnaires. And the natural behavior questionnaires, like that's the 46 questions that the individual see on the screen, those particular question items is one of the most core pieces of IP that we have. And that is something that you get to access whenever you are an Incubator client, and you will access it in the IP pack. The other piece that you will get are answer sequences to test the integration. So we have some set answer sequences for individuals that answer the specific questions. So the answer patterns of most and least like as they're going through the questionnaire, and also what the response should be for those. And that will help you test to make sure that everything is connected up correctly in your app. We have unique style images. So one cool thing that we've worked with some researchers on is connecting images to different behavior styles. So there's images related to community builders and strategists and reflective thinkers. And we've done a bunch of research to connect the visuals in the images to the types of images that these particular people would like. So that's one interesting thing that you can access in here. And then we have other descriptions of factors, insights, We have some specific details into the risk profile and how to create it. If there's anybody that's a fintech startup that's on the call right now, one aspect that you will likely be very interested in is our risk behavior questionnaire and how it's all set up. We provide a lot of details in this IP pack. There's some more information that's in the than what is in the API documentation for error troubleshooting and specifics around that, as well as a Postman collection. And we'll go into the Postman collection in a moment, but that is used in order to test connections locally on your system. So as I mentioned a moment ago, Postman is something that we would give you access to, or a Postman collection. Postman is a development environment that you would install on your computer locally and allows you to just test the connection of an API. One way to jumpstart your use of Postman is to access our collection that we have pre-built. So we have pre-built all the different connection screens and strings and settings required in order to connect to our Sandbox API, and we allow that in a download for you. So there's a zip file that you can download off of our IP pack and install into your Postman instance, and that would allow you to interact and test with our full sandbox. So as you can see on my screen, as you open this up, there's many different tabs. Some of the tabs are related to getting the token. So that one of the first steps is to get your API token, and then you will post answers, and then you will get various results after the answers are posted, and all of those are included in our collection. So there should be very little setup for you because we've done most of the work and then we've provided it just in a turnkey solution. Next on the agenda, we have to discuss the questionnaire experiences and how to build that in your app. So the first step to building DNA into your app or in your MVP design, I recommend that you first develop the questionnaire, because that is required for basically the full integration. That's the first step. So as you develop the questionnaire, here's some things to think about that we found either are requirements in the process or just helpful. So choosing what you want the default experience to be, if you want it to be on desktop, mobile, or both, that's something that's pretty important to figure out at the beginning. Inherently, our app that we offer our customers from a SaaS perspective works on desktop, mobile, tablets, all the devices. It's built fully responsive, and I would recommend that you would do the same unless it's a very specialized app and there's not a business requirement for that. The way that it works is that users will select one most and one least like selection. Our IP pack gives you the questionnaire. So this is an example of a questionnaire, question 30. And as you can see, an individual would click and drag a most like selection, click and drag a least like selection, and as soon as they've done that, then they move on to the next section. We're developing some improvements to our design where there's going to be some gamification. So it provides some active feedback on if individuals are going better or slower than the average, and it gives them some cues in order to speed up. So ultimately, we want individuals to take the questionnaire as fast as possible, because there's been a lot of research that we've done that has proven that regardless of how long a client will spend on the questionnaire, the results are the same. So individuals always will answer the questions based on their first instinct. So if they're looking at a question for 5 seconds or a minute, it's still going to be the same answer. And because there's so many different questions and different ways that we're validating the results, even if one particular question is answered slightly different, the results aren't dramatically different. You know, you might see 1 score or 2 score difference on one of the 64 behavioral traits. So it won't make that big of a difference. Clients should not go backwards after they've completed that one particular question. So after they've submitted question 30, they should only see question 31. They should not be able to go back to like question 29 and adjust their answer for the same reason. The question results or the results at the end really won't change based on an answer change of on a particular question. Clients should be urged to take the assessment in one setting, and you should manage their expectations that it should take about 10 minutes to complete. You should save the questions or the answers along the way, though. In case a client doesn't answer the whole thing, they can log back in and answer where they left off. Next, we have to discuss the behavioral insights. So we have an enormous amount of insights that are available now, insights that are also coming soon. So we're adding about 100 extra that are coming in summer of 2019, so just in about a month here. We're going to be adding specific insights on financial behavior insights that are very specific to that, work talent insights, and sales insights. And we have a complete guide. So we have an API integration guide that will help you review all of the insights that are available. We just recently produced this, and following the call, we're going to have one of our team members, Lisa Travis, follow up with all the attendees, and they'll provide the API integration guide. So in this guide, it has basically all the details. It's quite in depth, and it gives some information on how we approach the research and development and also our roadmap. So what we're planning on building in the future. In addition to what we have on our roadmap and also things that we're currently in the process of loading up into the sandbox, we also do custom development. So if there's any specific problem that you're trying to address, whether it be AI or machine learning or how people have their work talents or any type of habit that they particularly would have, we can measure most anything that a human does in a workplace or their life or a decision that they make with behavior. So if you have any custom things that you're not seeing in this list or things that you're interested in, just let us know and we can tell you how practical or realistic it would be for us to come up with some custom insights. We have PhDs and researchers that are part of our business that have helped us develop all this stuff. And we've done some custom things in the past and saw some pretty cool business challenges with behavior. So we're happy to kind of explore with you what you're trying to do and help you connect the dots. At this point, we can pause for questions. Does anybody have any questions?
Hey, Ryan, we do have a couple of questions out here. One, have you tested a conversational approach to delivering the questionnaire?
So I believe that this would be getting into if the questionnaire should be done with an individual actually on a device, or if an individual can prompt or ask the questions verbally. So that's how I'll answer it, and if that's not how you're wanting that's not your specific question, just let us know. So we do have, so our particular questionnaire is very in-depth, so it'd be pretty difficult to ask the whole thing verbally, and I'm not sure if that would affect the results or not. In our training, however, we do have some verbal and nonverbal cues for a facilitator to review on somebody. So let's say I had somebody walk into the door and I see that they have their hands crossed a certain way, or they're being kind of guarded with answering questions. There is a way that you can review someone's just interpersonal behavior in order to predict what style they could be. And I could see that that could be used in an application like you're looking at. So it could be something like if you don't want them to actually take the questionnaire or take the full time to do it, there's some ways that you could do it by reviewing nonverbal cues that somebody would have. And if that doesn't fully address your question, you can just feel free to just add another one into the Q&A board and we can review that.
And I would just add to that, that your results aren't going to be as exact as if you have somebody take the assessment itself. And part of the And I think part of what would be a challenge doing it conversationally is that the questions are designed to put a little bit of pressure on the participant as they're taking it, because they have to choose between things that either are not like them or are all like them. And so it forces them to make a choice, and that forced choice can be a little bit uncomfortable, but that helps us get to the accuracy. And I'm not sure that you would be able to do that well conversationally. So like Ryan said, you can watch and hear and listen for things that can give you some direction to go, that you can start to flex in that direction and try to make a guess to someone's behavioral style, or at least to the way they're behaving with you right then. But I would say to do the whole questionnaire as a conversation, I think would be a bit difficult, and may not get you the results as accurately as if you have someone take the assessment. And then Ryan, we've got one more, excuse me, one more question. Can you give us a use case? So can you talk through a use case of how this is being used, the API is being used?
Yeah, and for the person that answered this, we will follow up with or asked this, we will follow up with the link to the first webinar that we did. We went pretty in depth into specific use cases, but I can go over just some like basic use cases here. And then if you want to do a deeper dive, you can review that whole webinar. So there's a few ones that come to mind. So just on a general basis, how people in applications use behavior. There's a lot of different problems that you can solve. So like eHarmony, for instance, that's a dating app, and everything is based on personality. So as one individual goes in, they create their profile, they'll measure their own personality, and then they'll be matched up with people that are similar or opposite to them based on really what they're looking for in a relationship. That is a very simple example. We've worked with a few partners before that are doing some pretty cool stuff in a business setting. So we have a partner, their name is Brilliant Fit, in Australia, and they have built a whole hiring platform. It would be pretty similar to what we have as far as Career Builder here, where individuals can go in and be matched up with a job that's a cultural fit for their personality style. And all of the information on their personality style is provided to the recruiter. And then we serve up specific recruiting and interview questions for the individual. So if somebody's coming in and they're pretty reflective and a deep thinker, and they're hiring for a job that is like an IT manager, the person that's hosting the interview will ask the applicant specific questions that are tailored to their personality style. Another example that we used in the first webinar would be like a robo-advice platform. They use personality in order to identify the risk profile of an individual. We have information on risk behavior, risk profile, risk tolerance, as well as a portfolio that can be used as a starting point for the individual. So as soon as someone completes a profile, we immediately will know what the starting point for their portfolio would be, like how much percentage in stocks versus bonds, how much cash that person would be comfortable having. Because if individuals are investing outside of their comfort zone, then we know that it's going to cause compliance and complaint issues for the firm, whether it be legal or it's just a customer service issue. And we can kind of predict and minimize and mitigate those. Another thing that we're going to be highlighting in one of our next future webinars is how to use personality for matching in a business setting. So we have a lot of insights into how likely people are to work together and what challenges they may have as they work together based on their personality style. So in our company, DNA Behavior, we have individuals that are kind of full gamut as far as the personality style, but you would see trends in like individuals that are in the sales department would be more outgoing, people that are in more IT are more reflective and deep thinking, people that are, our leader, Hugh Massey, that started this business, is a very pioneering, fast-paced, take charge kind of individual, and that fits his role and what he does for us in the company. And so we do kind of connections and mapping like that to figure out how individuals work together or which clients would work best to which representatives in a firm. Is there anything that you'd like to add to that, Nikki?
I think you covered a good bit. But I would say, you know, there are kind of endless applications that you can use this for anywhere that you're looking for people to have a key to working with somebody else better. Ryan, a little bit more on the conversational question for the questionnaire. He said that he's thinking less verbal cues and more around using a conversational AI or chatbot to walk people through the questionnaire. So making it a little bit more interactive and human, like the questions are just coming up and being asked. I don't believe we've tested for that, but I wanted to let you think about that.
Yeah, we haven't tested that particular thing. But I imagine that really the design of that would start at breaking up the questionnaire into chunks and allowing people to answer it in very small little snippets. So like maybe answering like 1 or 2 questions up front and then kind of piecemealing it together to get the full 46. We've done some very small testing around that, and what we found is that the results are affected whenever you're kind of piecemealing it like that into so many different bite-sized chunks. So we'd recommend that, you know, things are taken in bigger parts, and certainly we'd recommend that they complete the whole questionnaire all at the same setting, because situationally things are going to be influenced. For instance, if I'm logging into your app in order to find a specific insight and I'm rushed because my boss is like saying, hey, Ryan, I need this right away, and I'm preparing for a meeting, I'm going to be under stress or pressure, and my answer to that particular question may be situationally different than what it would have been if I had a clear mind and I was completing the questionnaire up front in like an onboarding process. So those would be some things to think about. I don't think it's something that would be possible to figure out, but those would be some of the challenges that we would think about as we started to design that with you.
And I would say we would, if that was something that you're super interested in doing, we could definitely help you test that out and see if we can get accurate results with that kind of chatbot approach versus having somebody just take the questionnaire the way it is currently in our system, and do some analysis with you to see if, like Ryan said, if we can make it feel natural enough and also accurate.
Very good. All right, if there's no further questions, what we'll do is we can go ahead and end this webinar. But as I mentioned earlier, Lisa Travis from our team will be contacting each of you. She'll be providing 2 resources. One is going to be the API integration guide that has all of the behavioral insights that we are currently working on and have in the R&D roadmap. The other resource is just information on the DNA API Incubator, some of the program requirements, and also how to apply. So if you're interested in applying and taking it to the next step, that will be the best resource for that. And without further ado, I thank everybody for joining us in this webinar today. And if you have any questions, just feel free to reach out to us.
Thanks, everyone.